Good morning, everyone. Hopefully, we didn't scare you all. Excuse the tardiness. So sorry about that. Good morning. Good morning. We are excited to be with you today. Lori's going to pop her gorgeous face on in just a sec. But while she is doing what she's trying to finish taking care of, I am going to do our intro and then do some housekeeping and get us ready for today's show. Should be really good. Hold on one second for me while Sorry, let me make sure you guys have chat capabilities. There we go. All right. If you could just confirm you can see my screen okay. Can someone just drop it in the chat? Yes, I see it. Everything looks good. Let's see. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Denise. Okay, so let's get started. Good morning again, everyone. My name is Lauren Simpson. I am with the SBDC, or the Small Business Development Center, and we are a national program with over 1,000 locations across the country. We offer no-cost services to local small businesses. Now, because of funding and, of course, your tax dollars at work, we are able to offer our services for free. Technology, I swear. So for the Los Angeles Regional SBDC network, we serve the Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. And if you take a look at the screen in front of you, you will see a map that shows our physical center locations. You will see that we are in Camarillo, as well as Santa Clarita, Pasadena, all the way out to Laverne, throughout Los Angeles, the South Bay, down into Long Beach. Now that you know where we're located, take a closer look at the screen in front of you. You'll see that we offer no-cost business advising. We also offer no-cost virtual trainings. Now, if I dive in a little deeper into our business advising, we are able to offer business experts. Now, I'm talking about experts in various industries, from taxes and finances. We have our own very own guru of all numbers, Miss Lori Williams. So you might even have a chance to sit down and chat with her. She'll get you straight, trust me. We also have experts in business planning. So if you're just starting out and looking to create your business plan, in market research, again, if you're just starting out, we also have specialized teams, one being the ACT team, and that's the Access to Capital team. So if you're looking to access capital because maybe you're looking to stabilize or grow your business, we have a team dedicated to that. If you're looking into marketing, social media, honestly, you name it, we've got it for you. Contracting, permits, excuse me. We have an expert for you. And then for the virtual trainings, those are going to be comprehensive workshops that assist you in beginning your business, adapting, or growing your business. So be sure to get in contact with us today for the Los Angeles area. So again, network area. So that's going to be Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. Please go to smallbizla.org/new client, or you can give us a call, 866-588-7232. And then if you have reached us and you're outside of our network, please go to americassbdc.org/find your SBDC. So if I quickly stop my screen share. Oh, Miranda and Darwin, thank you so much. Dowrin, excuse me. So housekeeping, Lori, really quickly, we want to be sure that everyone puts their questions into the Q&A. Again, questions into the Q&A. The chat's going to be reserved for the little party that we have every Wednesday morning. That party entails feedback related to the content that's being shared. Lori, it also shares any kind of links or contact information for you, our attendees. So with that, quick update as it relates to EOG. I'm receiving some, if you participated in the EOG program, I've started to receive more and more emails about people kind of checking in. They are still reviewing applications. I know it's been a while. Phase 2 application reviews, I believe, just started in July. So I know it's slowly moving, but it is moving. So be sure to monitor your emails and look out for updates there. With that, Lori, pass it over to you.
You know what, Lauren? So I have a thought this morning. You ready? And guys, everybody in the audience. I'm sharing this with you as well. So over the last course of many years, something I've always believed to be true, as you look at the qualities that a human needs to succeed, you can say qualities you need to succeed as a mom, quality you need to succeed as a business person. We always have those, and you say you have to be this, you have to be that, you have to be patient. I always used to say when God was handing out patience, I looked at the line and said, it's too long, man. I can't wait in that line. I've always said that, right? But I've added a new word over the last 3 years, and this word came into my mind just approximately 8 minutes ago, guys. And I'm ready to share this with the audience, and I hope to hear a bunch of laughter in the chat. And that is agility. Agility. See, Lauren knows what I'm going to share with you guys, and that's why she's laughing. So I learned some time ago is that the way the world is now, we got to be agile. I always say I got to play life dodgeball. Miss me? Okay, got this. Miss me? Got this. Okay, guys, why am I discussing this? Because 8 minutes ago, we were informed that our guest is not showing up. Okay, everybody, just laugh in yourself. Yes, our guest is not showing up. Yep. And so I said to Lauren 9 minutes ago or something like that, I said, Lauren, we got this. We're just going to go through this. We're going to have fun. We got an audience that loves to be participating in things. So, Lauren, I would like to introduce our guest today, our audience. Yay! We got 31 on right now. Welcome guests to the show. So what we decided that we're going to do, look at everybody in the chat. Thank you guys. You're making me feel a little bit better. So the first thing you can put in the chat is our words of wisdom. One must be agile and flexible to survive in today's world. Okay, Lauren, that'll be our first gem that I'm going to give to you today, right? Yeah, putting us on the spot. I got put on the spot, so I'm putting you guys on the spot. Don't you think that's fair? You just passed the buck. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do is I've got some things I want to talk about anyway, and I got a myth buster today. And I pulled out something else just on the spot that I want to communicate. And I've been wanting to communicate with you. Please keep in mind, it's going to be a little sloppy as I communicate some of these things because I just grabbed them. That's why I wasn't on when you first launched. And then let's, put in the question, or Lauren will see if you accidentally put in the chat. Subjects are up. Ask me anything. You can ask me about my cat and her stroller. You can ask me anything related to business. I don't care. You can ask me anything. And yes, Karina, I'll slow down. I got that ability to talk way too fast. And as a funny thing, so I grew up in upstate New York, learned to talk really fast. Then I moved to Texas. Nobody could understand what I was saying. So I learned to talk really slow. And now I go back and forth. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to start sharing my screen with my usual intro. And let's get some info on the myth buster. Now, Lauren's going to have this link, and she's going to put it into the chat. And what I wanted to talk about, which I can expand upon a little bit, is questions that I get. As you know, my myth busters always come from what I'm experiencing in my calls, etc. And this is something that I really been thinking I need to talk about ever since we had the pandemic unemployment insurance to clarify. Now, I am going to tell you first and foremost that this topic I'm talking about, Social Security, disability, collecting it, I'm not an expert on this, guys. I'm like one of those that are just enough information to be dangerous. I know a little bit from business structures. I know a little bit from tax. But next week, we got Simara coming on, which, she is our resident HR expert. So I was going to bring this up next week, but I thought, what, I'm going to bring it up this week in case you guys get questions from what I'm saying, then we can ask Simara and she may be able to clarify. So let me first introduce what I'm talking about. As business owners, and I'm speaking now in all business owners, whether you're a sole prop, an LLC, or an S corp, and any of the corporation status or sole prop that we commonly see with our clients, a lot of times we get asked, well, can I collect Social Security? Can I collect disability? Can I collect unemployment? And what I'm seeing, and I think this is probably why it's becoming a more commonplace question, is that it's a given that a lot of, I'm going to say older people, myself included, I've been in business my whole life, but what I'm saying is people that are actually concerned versus when you're 21, you're not like, well, am I going to get Social Security? You think, well, it probably won't even be available when I get older. But when you're in your older years, and you start a company or been in a company, you start to say, okay, can I collect on these? So this is where I want to kind of go over this a little bit. Now, the link is going to take you to the IRS, by the way, and the link is going to go through this in more detail. And what I'm opening up is Pandora's box, because this is a complicated topic. My purpose is to create an awareness. So if you haven't asked this question, you're maybe asking it so you have an understanding to check into it. So I'm not answering the question as much as I think by bringing it up, some people might be, wow, I just considered I was covered. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I need a supplemental insurance. That's my goal today. And it came up again yesterday because a couple wrote to me and they said, we are thinking of taking out an additional disability policy. How is it covered as us being owners? And, like I said, I get asked that quite a bit. And so I thought, let me cover it. So let's first start out with the fact that when you are speaking of Social Security and disability, let me take those two. It has to do with whether or not you paid into the system. You paid into the system. So if you're an employee, think about being an employee for a second, you know that you get your gross salary and then you get your net pay. And the difference between the two is not only the federal and state income tax, it's also FICA, Social Security, Medicare, and then a disability also goes into that, right? So you are paying into the system, and this paying into the system allows you to draw from the system in the case of retirement or something happens that you go on disability. And disability is the one I'm really not completely familiar with because I just did not have a lot of experience with it, right? Now, when you are a sole prop or an LLC, you are taxed the same way. And so the net income, I want to repeat that again, guys, the net income, which is your revenue minus all your expenses, net income, I believe it's line item 32 on a Schedule C, that is the amount that is subject to taxes, and that is the amount that you would be paying into these funds, okay? And the funds are it's about 7.65. It's 6.2% for Social Security and 1.45% for Medicare. Now, let's look at a company that has zero or negative net income. That would not subject the owners to pay in because it's based on net income. So a lot of the companies that are running at a loss every year, they are not paying into Social Security or Medicare. So they're not, I should say, funding that. They're not funding that. Now, you may have been an employee at one point and paid in. You may be an employee in the future, but it all depends on the fund under your name, your Social Security, and how much is paid into it. And you can go on to the Social Security Administration website, set up an account, and it allows you to see the funds. I did that some time ago because, and I'm going to get into this, as a taxed as an S Corp, I have to provide a W-2 payment to me being the working owner. I, crazy as it is, decided, well, I can do my own W-2 payroll. It's just me, and I've been doing it for years. So if you think about it, I am paying in my W-2 and then my company is matching an amount, then I can check Lori's personal account on the other side to make sure I got it right. It's transferring, right? So I first did it as a way to make sure I was doing the company right. And then I realized, oh, well, I can also access this to see what my fund has, the total. In fact, if you're at a certain age, you might remember every so often you would get in the mail something from the Social Security Administration. It would say, this is how much money is in your account. If you retired at this age, you would be able to draw this amount. I don't recall getting one of those documents for some time now, but it is online. So the point I'm making is that you are paying into this fund, and you are paying into the fund by being taxed on your net income. Now, I already kind of mentioned it. If you're an S Corp, the owner worker must take a W-2. And once again, that is paying into the fund, and then the company must match the amount. So you literally have 15% going into the fund. Now, when it comes to unemployment, this got really confusing because let me say it this way, during COVID, many sole props and LLCs drew on pandemic unemployment assistance. PUA brings back a nightmare with those initials. At least it does to me, because I managed a lot of that. But anyway, the reason why that became available was because there was a federal funding given to the state to cover it. Typically, an LLC and a sole prop would not pay in any unemployment. An S Corp, since you are an employee of the company, you do have to pay in unemployment. So a LLC and a sole prop outside this unique situation would have never been paying into a fund, therefore could not draw on unemployment. So the takeaway is that the ability to draw from these type of accounts is the payments you paid into it. On the link that Lauren gave you, you'll see it goes by credits, and the amount you paid in versus the credits on how much you can pull out. Once again, complicated level. But it really depends on how you paid in, and the business structures are unique. I want to tie one more thing together. As much as I said that a S Corp pays in a salary for the working owner and would pay into these funds as well, if you have an S Corp where you're running at a zero or negative, there's no money to be taxed on. So it's a double-edged sword, if you will. On one side, you run the company and you try to have it very low in net earnings, net income, to not pay taxes, but then you're not paying into the fund, and you may not be able to retire because you don't, well, not, I shouldn't say you may not be able to retire. That was a really incorrect way of saying it. You won't have the Social Security funds that you think you may have. So once again, my goal was to bring up this very complicated topic, have an awareness, and if I left you with more questions than answers, or created a question you did not have, that is what I intended to do, because as you've heard me speak constantly, my purpose is about awareness. I want to connect reality. I want to make sure that you are aware, because if you're aware, you can make choices. If you're not aware, the choices are thrust upon you. And the word, to me, choice, is one of the most important words, because to me, that's a direct link to freedom. We want freedom. That's why we're owning our own company. On some level, that's my word, but on some level, that's what draws us to be, self-employed. And so freedom has a certain level of responsibility of being aware. So these should not be, and my word should not be taken as a hindrance. Oh my God, that's overwhelming. I'm going to be an employee. That's not the purpose. It's an awareness, and what do you have to do accordingly to work with the system as it exists. Okay, I know I probably brought up more questions than answers. Simara may be able to get in more depth on it, but as always, do not obtain this information through blogs and the internet. Go straight to what I call the horse's mouth. And that's why there is a link from the IRS on this topic, but there's many links on the Social Security Administration Board. And if you have some questions, I can always research and find some more, because every time that I do my W-2, I make sure all my checks and balances are in place. So I have an awareness of some of those other links. Okay, quick on what's coming up. My financial literacy series is being run again. I'm going to talk a little bit about something on that today, a little fill in. And then my what is your best legal structure for your company and what are the tax advantages? If you were wanting to know any more or was confused when I said, well, if you're an S Corp, you're an employee, an LLC, and sole prop are taxed the same, that's the webinar you want to tune into, because that's where I discuss a lot of that. And then as far as upcoming shows, next week, next week, Kevin's going to show up. I know this, Lauren, we got him. And so Kevin's going to show up. He's going to talk about fluffy snowballs. And, you know, I just love the name Fluffy Snowballs. He's really a very energetic person, and he's going to tell you the whole story of how he first was exposed to fluffy snowballs in his hometown and wanted to open up a restaurant or a company to offer this. It's really a fun story. So I'm going to enjoy interviewing him. And then, like I said, I got Tamara coming back on. She's so gracious to give us her time and keep coming back on. I want to talk about AB5 again. I know I always bring this up, but it's such a key point. I don't think a week goes by that I don't need to explain to somebody some of the situations on hiring independent contractors due to AB5. And then, of course, any questions or anything we want to ask, she always tells us about, you know, things we need to consider. And, you know, I always say that there's no such thing anymore as a small company. And what I mean by that is the small companies are exposed to all of these HR regulations and, you know, all of these things that I'm talking about as much to the same degree in many levels as a large company. And so even if you're just selling some things like, you know, you're selling dog sweaters, I always use at a farmer's market, you might have a POS system for taking credit cards, and then you have a sales tax that you must be aware of and add on, and then you have a business license. I remember, you know, and I was looking through some old pictures and it came up again. My mother had her own catering company. She also would bake all these breads and cookies and sell them at the various farmers market. And as a young girl, I had to go and sell cookies. I was selling beans on the market with my grandfather, then cookies with my mother at the farmers market. You know, like I said, I grew up in the country, so everything was entrepreneurial. And I've thought of this so many times. I can't say for sure. I never asked my mother this, but I bet you she didn't have a business license. I don't even think they had a consideration. I don't even think she had like a farmer's market fee she had to pay. I don't think she had any of those things. And I also thought about the fact, I know she didn't have finances, and I'm not sure if her cookies were profitable, because my father, he, you know, was basically, you know, the one that brought in most of the money. So she used my father's money. Not that it was my father's versus my mother, but follow me on this. She used the money he made from his company, his job, to buy the flour. So in her world, the flour was free. And then she baked the cookies, and then she would keep the money. So she had like no cost of goods. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But my point is, small companies don't exist as they once did. And that's where I'm coming from there. So I was going to launch into something else, but I'm going to look real quick to see if I got some. Is my audience participating? So Christine, hello. How does a person sell or sole proprietorship in a business that buys and sells goods? If you're working from home and you don't keep inventory, what can you sell? You know, in essence, I'm going to answer this in two ways. So one cannot necessarily sell a sole prop, if you will, but in many cases, even if I don't want somebody to go down the road and say, well, then I should be an LLC because I can sell it. Because, you know, that isn't really what deems a lot of times what can be sold in the small business. What deems what can be sold, and follow me as I unpack this, right? But it has to do what the value of the company is. When you have, I'm going to go service and product. When you have a service-based company, if the services you offered and the longevity of the company has created somewhat of a branding where the customers will continue to come and you've got kind of where it's operating independent of the owner, then you can sell what would be the branding, the customers, the repeat, because you have to keep in mind, and this is the thing, whenever you're talking about selling a company or purchasing it as well, but we're talking about selling, you have to say, what is the potential future earnings? Because the person purchasing the company is not buying the past, they're really buying the future. Okay. Now, when you start to get it that way in your head, you have to say, and I'm making up a story just to communicate, say I'm a hairstylist and I have my own hairstyling salon, but there's somebody that rents a booth and all of them are my customers. Yes, I could have name recognition, but how much can I get for it? Because the question becomes, if I leave, do my clients leave with me? How much attrition is in that sale, right? If I have a product and I'm selling a product and I'm just buying from distributors just like anybody else can, what is going to be the value of that? Well, the value could be the processes, because if you think about Amazon, I always like to use that example, Amazon doesn't make anything, but they are highly valued, and it's the processes they have in place, right? So sometimes it's the relationships. Where are you getting it manufactured from? Just like we had Arnell on some time ago. Lauren, if you can find Arnell and put it in a chat, that would be a great one, because Arnell sold her company and she talked a lot about what she went through to find a buyer and the relationships, and she had a product. So when you have a sole prop, say you have a product that you created, right? And you manufacture it and you have some relationships. Keep in mind, purchasing a company is no different than, weird analogy, but purchasing a used car from somebody. What are they looking at? How many more miles can it go? What could I invest in the car to make it go more miles? So it's the same thing. So it's not the business structure so much, it's what is it that someone is buying that then they can use to give them future dollars and make it worth not only making money from the company, but repaying back the dollar amount they purchased the company for, right? And so it's the tie into those futures. And so a lot of times, like if somebody even has like a cleaning service and they have contracts from the corporation, that's a feeling of comfort. I got the future contract. So that's a service-based company that suddenly has a more valuation to the purchaser because they have a comfort. This is also why in the small business arena, and big ones too, that a lot of times if you do sell your company, they want you to stay on for a period of time to make the transition as well as from employees, etc. But if you think about the fact that about 82%, and this was an old percentage when I was doing my EA testing, companies within the United States are sole props. These are restaurants and everything, and restaurants get sold. So it's not so much the legal structure, it's what is the continuity, the continuation within the company for the future revenue, and who can you find that wants to purchase it. So I wouldn't get hung up so much on the structure. Where we get hung up on structures, rightly so, and this isn't this world as much, but if you're talking about venture capital, I'm not talking about angel investors, but venture capital, they want corporations, they want C Corps a lot, they want certain criteria, because that's a whole more different, confusing type of structure. But quite a lot of these businesses do change hands, and it's all about what it is that you are offering that continues. I know that was a very long answer, but hopefully that answered your question, Christine, or at least gave you some kind of an idea, and also once again brought up more questions. Perhaps today is about making you have more questions than answers. I think that's going to be my theme. But you know, I've always said that questions are powerful. What I always do as a method, personally and in business, is when I'm trying to solve something, and I'm just going to mention this on the side, and I used to teach this also when I taught at both Pepperdine and USC in the entrepreneurship program, and that is the power of questions. And those of you who have been frequent flyers, you've heard me bring up this before. It's asking the right questions that is so powerful. And if we go from problem to solution too fast, we are not looking at enough of the options, and options can also be translated as opportunity. So when I would, especially when I was doing a lot of turnarounds in my private business or going in for big time strategy for companies that needed to do course corrections, I would make sure that I forced or disciplined myself for an entire day or so where I was not allowed to answer the questions. I only was allowed to ask the questions, and I would record the questions, because that way I'm really delving into all of the different facets of the situation and all the different aspects and all the different opportunity. And so when I was at USC and Pepperdine, I would tell them, as we looked at different business models, I would tell them, during this class, you can't answer any questions. It would drive them up a wall because they wanted to say the answer. All we're going to do today is we're going to write down every single question we would come up with. And it was really fascinating to me to even watch it on a student level. So what I did is I would make up a business model, or I would even take an upcoming company that I read about in a magazine or something, right? And I would tell the class, this is the company and this is what it's doing. What are all the questions we could ask? And I would write them on the board, and we would collect the questions, and nobody could do an answer. And they were sold to themselves by the end of the class, because they realized when they asked all the questions how they had considered things that they never would have asked. So that's why I feel like questions and awareness are two vital keys to solving anything. And businesses are very, very complex. And so that method of discipline will take you far. So that's on that. Anonymous, how do you know when to hire? Oh my God, I love this question, because I'm going to show you something today just about that. I have enough work for myself, but want to grow. I run a solo speech therapy practice. Anonymous, hold on to that, because I am going to, in a, like I said, a kind of a sloppy way, I want to demonstrate this, because you frequent flyers remember, I think it was, and I don't know, Lauren, I think it was like 2 or 3 times ago where I talked about this myth about growing your company isn't always the answer. You know how I was chatting about that? I said, I'll come back to that and I'll elaborate. So I'm going to take the time today and I'm going to elaborate. But like I said, I couldn't create anything in Excel, so I'm taking something I got. But give me a second, Anonymous. We're going to come back to that. Lauren, I think I have a question in the chat somewhere. Can you read it to me? Because I'm not catching up on all of them. I don't want to miss them. Can you tell me if we got some in the chat?
We do. We just got one. And forgive me, Mary, I was just about to ask you to put it into the the Q&A. So let me go ahead and read it for Lori. Mary says, hi, if I loan my company money from my personal finances, should I document it as a loan? Thank
Mary,
you.
great question. Yes, I'm going to take out the word should and I'm going to put the word must. Okay, so this is how it works. Now, it depends on legal structures. Once again, I don't know the legal structure you're talking about, but I'm going to say, for example, if you have a corporation and you loan your company money, right? What you want to do is you want to, if you're going to put it on the balance sheet, I know we're getting a little high on this, but bear with me, Mary, as a shareholder loan, you then have to, by IRS requirements, not only have it as a loan, but you have to have an interest rate that the company is paying you back, okay? So you have to have this interest rate. And it's going to be a little confusing what I say, Mary and everybody, but just bear with me because I'm only explaining enough to give you an understanding. So this has been one of the, I'm going to say taxation loopholes or trickery. I don't know. I don't know what word to use on this. Okay, guys, so bear with me on the word because I'm being taped. I got to figure out the right words to use here. But this is what a lot of tax preparers would do, and not to the benefit of their company, in my opinion, having been a banker. So this is how it would go. The company would owe a certain amount of money because of taxes. And so what would happen is instead they would take out shareholder loans, or they would loan the money. They would use this kind of vehicle back and forth to kind of reduce some of the tax. But whenever you look at these shareholder loans, or loan to shareholder, I'm kind of talking about the whole thing about, money coming in and out from shareholders. The IRS is very strict because they want to make sure that it is a true loan. So if you don't have the documentation of this loan, if you're lending money to the company or you're taking money from the company to yourself, the IRS can come back and say it's a taxable event. And there's layers and layers of reasons on that it's way too confusing to get into right now. But nevertheless, whenever you have money coming in or out of the company as a loan to you or a loan from you, et cetera, you want to make sure this is documented. You want to make sure it's shown as a payback. You want to make sure you have everything officially in place, because otherwise, I've seen where, going back to our discussion with Clarissa, where I talked about people put money into the company, QuickBooks picks it up as income invoices and then turns around and people end up paying taxes on it. So you got to make sure it has the correct accounting journal. And then you also need to make sure that if it's a loan to shareholder, that it's got the correct interest and everything on that. So yes, that is something that's just not a simple thing to do. You must make sure that you have every single thing in place to make sure it's done correctly. So Lauren, I'm going to go to an Excel document really quick because I don't want to miss Anonymous's question. And once again, guys, I love everything to be so super clear and my Excel documents to be so clear, and I couldn't build anything real quickly to make it as simple as I wish it was. So I just told Lauren, I said, you do the intro, I'm going to be off camera. I'm grabbing any friggin' Excel document I can find because I knew what I wanted to say. So say, okay, Lori, we're going to give you a little slack, but we're going to follow you the best we can. Okay. So here we go. This is Anonymous. You would think I actually paid Anonymous to ask the question, because this is what I wanted to talk about anyway. So once again, guys, get the gist of this. I know it's not enough to, give you full detail, but what's cool about this is a actual Excel that I use to teach in session number 2. I'm expanding a little different into it than I go in depth in session number 2. But if you want to know more about what I'm doing here, session 2, I not only go over this, but you get a copy of it on session 2. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of give you the lay of the land and what this is set up as, and then demonstrate something. And if you can just take away from, maybe I don't get all that's on this Excel document, but I get what she's trying to demonstrate. Okay, so that's where we go, is we get what we're trying to demonstrate. So everybody kind of give me a little full attention right now, and we're going to go with something. Right here is a model that I created, right? And I always tell people there's no such thing as templates when you're doing managerial accounting. You've heard me say that. They're models you create to understand something. So what I did is I created the model, and here's the analysis that I created in this model. And I create models on every business question. I've said to you, every single business question is first a financial question. You figure it out financially, you create the parameters, then you look into the shop door operational. You look into the HR, should I hire somebody? You look outside to the competitors, what can I charge? But you first and foremost look at it mathematically from a financial perspective, right? So this is what I said. I had cookies in this example. I had small, medium, and large cookies. And you can see I'm up here. This is just kind of my chart of my numbers. So I said, I'm going to sell them at this amount. This is the cost. I figured out the cost and the labor for the cookies. I simply subtracted the sell price from the cost. This is the gross profit. And I divided that into the revenue to get a gross profit margin. So what I did here is I created this little chart where I said, this is the amount of overhead I have, and this is the backup data over here. So these are all made up numbers, but the overhead came from here. You can see per month, if I add up the overhead, this fake overhead I got, it's 2,665. So I inserted 2,665. Now, the very first question I can ask is, here's my net income, and this may not be able to be seen easily, but note there's a negative sign in front of the 2, okay? It's negative 2,643, translational loss, but that's me only selling 1. So let's see if I put 0 here, which is, if it's 0 sales, it's 0 cost, you could see it's negative 200,665. Why? Because I'm showing no sales, no cost to make the cookies, but I have an overhead of 2,665. So of course I got a loss because I'm showing no sales. If I turn around and I show one sale, and it's going to match the cost, because if I sell a cookie, I'm matching the cost of the cookie. I then say, well, it's negative 2,643 because I have the gross profit of $22 from the sale of one cookie. Okay. So that's with the mechanics of this model. Now, once the model's created, I ask the model a myriad of questions. So once again, even if you didn't follow me fully, just watch what I'm asking. And if at the end of this, you go, I didn't follow everything she did, but that was some friggin' cool questions that she can ask and make this model tell the answer. And maybe, just maybe, that's what she's been talking about, how you can't get a template and you build a model and you ask questions before you take action. Lauren, if you can copy any of what I just said into the chat, if you guys can take away that this is why Lori is saying every question is first a financial question, why she says there's no such thing as templates for managerial accounting, and why she says she can create a model and it will give her parameters. If nothing I say you are able to grab on in this really quick analysis, but you walk away from that, you're good. So here's what I can say now. I can say, hey, little model, I got a question for you. How many small cookies at selling price of $5.25 with this cost? How many medium at this selling price with this cost? And how many large do I need to sell in order to make $1 profit? This is just kind of figuring out how many would I need to sell. And I don't know the answer to this. I just grabbed this and then teaching. So if I sell 25 of those, 35, I'm just typing in numbers. I don't friggin' know the answer. So you can see if I sell that many in a month, I'm still negative 1,447. So that number's not going to work. So what if I sell 125? You see, the brain can't figure out all these different things. So I'm just putting in numbers and I'm almost there. What if I sell 125 of everyone? Yay, I'm $25. I made $25. Okay. So this tells me that I can have any combination because these are different prices, but I have an amount of cookies I must sell on a monthly basis to at least make $25. Now, what's interesting, as a side note, is the gross profit margin of each of these is different, okay? So this one's 79%, this one's 79%, this one's 76. Notice the combined of this quantity is bringing my gross profit down to 78%. That's why I say you must know the gross profit of everything you're doing, because you can think you're making money, but you're selling these up here, and then that one is pulling you down. And I know we got a couple people in the audience that I've had one-on-one, which they've had a rude awakening to their actual gross profits. They're probably, if they're hearing me, they're going to comment in the chat because they've experienced that. And just yesterday, I spoke to someone who thought their gross profit was 36 to find out it was really 12. Okay, these are huge numbers. So the first takeaway is you saw how I was able to put in numbers, figure out where I would be in net income, and then see how my gross profit is being affected by the different quantities of the sale. Now, Anonymous's question about hiring somebody. I want, Lauren, put net income 25 in the chat. I want everybody to remember net income 25, okay? So just watch how this minor rambling makes things interesting. So I am going to hire somebody, okay? So the first thing I have is an assistant that's 1,500. And say I'm selling this at a farmer's market and I decide I got so much business, it's going awesome, man. I'm going to have them hired and I'm going to open up 2 farmers market. And I'm doing this just from what I'm visually seeing with people and a gut belief that I got the thing, man. I got it, right? So say that my assistant is now double and it's 3,000, right? Well, where am I? I'm back to $1,475 loss. So the new question I asked the model, how many cookies do I have to now sell just to get back to where I was before? I don't know the answer to that, but the model will tell me. So what if I go 225, 225? Let's see. Nope, not yet, not yet. 225. Not yet. Okay, so look, now I can get real excited. Ready? So Lauren, I'm selling all these cookies and I hired somebody and look, I made 677. Wasn't that a great decision I made? But wait a minute, Lauren, knowing your expertise, what did I forget to add in to make those additional sales? Did they just mysteriously happen? Or did I have to have some, begins with an M,
Oh, marketing. Sorry, I was on mute.
yeah, marketing. So now I have to come back and go, well, if I was only spending 300, but I had a built up clientele, I might have to go to 1500 in marketing. Oh, auto gas. Okay, I got to go to 240 because I got double. Oh, the farmer's market fee. I got to go to 1200. Oh, cell phone. No, not really that much. Permit. I need another permit. Oh, yeah, I need that. Rent. No, I won't need any more rent. I'm back to negative 1263. How many cookies do I have to sell to get back to 25? I don't friggin' know. Let me try putting in numbers. 325, 325, still not there, 325. Okay, 325, I'm at 889. I'm just picking numbers, right? But you can see, like, even if I come down on one, 225, that's not going to be enough. See, isn't this cool? It's just a few formulas. I mean, there's nothing fancy about this. Let's say 275. I forgot where I was. I'm talking and doing this at the same time. And I build these for SBDC clients all day long with their actual data. So they can, I don't tell anybody, I show them. So I need 325. Okay. Whoops. So it's 325. Okay. So now I went through all that. I got all that expense and I have $126. Look at the amount of cookies. I went from 125 in each to 325, 325, and 255 per month of this amount of cookies that I have to sell to get to 126. Now, with a net income of 25, the additional $100 may not be worth it. So I might find I have to sell 500. So I might say, hey, you know what? I think I'm better off if I just change something else. You ready for this, guys? You with me so far? Did I lose you? Are you thinking this is cool? Go ahead and throw it in the chat or the Q&A, see if you're following me. Okay, so what if I turn around and I go back to, I think I'm trying to remember numbers. Luckily, I got a little bit of a photographic memory that I can remember what I had in here. I think I had 60. I may be around, not perfect, but I might be around it. The assistant was 1500. Okay, so that's probably about, the permit was 20. I think that was the number I had in there. Yeah, I'm close because I'm 2605. So now I got the situation again. Okay, so I got a high demand, Lauren. I got a high demand again. I got a long line. And instead of opening up another farmer's market, and I'll give you a little hint, what else could I consider doing? Anybody going to put it in? What could I consider doing before I went down hiring everybody? Anybody got an idea?
Christine says raise the price. Catherine says it too.
Now, this is what I love. Now, this is a small model, but it's still going to show you something. Check this out. You ready? So this is $5.25. Lauren put 5.25, so we got a memory of it, okay? So we got $5.25. Okay, first of all, guys, if you were going to buy a cookie from me, and it was $5.25, and the next week it was $5.50, are you going to go, I'm not going to buy that cookie for 25 cents? No, chances are you'll dig out that quarter. Chances are you won't even notice, to be honest with you, right? So that's a very, very, very small amount, okay? So Lauren put net income of $85 because that's my other number we're going to watch right now. So watch what happens. All I'm doing is adding 25 cents. That's it. $5.50 for the cookie. Look at, I'm up to 116 and I am not putting in any more effort to sell that cookie. None. None. You know, so there's no, now I'm at 116. What if I was, 525? I'm going to go to 6. I'm going to go to 6. Whoa, 179. Well, I'm going to add 25 cents to this, 875. Look, 210. What I'm trying to say, guys, is too many of you are selling your product and service so low, you think you got to beat the biggest companies and be competitive, which is not true. How many of you want to buy from a small company because you want customer service, you want personal attention, you want that local feel? We were talking about that last week with Dr. DeHaan. So why are we taking and matching competitors' lowball prices under this belief that we can't even increase the price? The takeaway is no decision to hire somebody, no decision to change location, to increase rent, to start a new market, or start a company should not be made with, and Lauren, this is going to be beautiful because I'm going to bring this around. The first thing you sit down and ask all the questions. What if I increased the price? What if I lowered my cost? What if I did this? What if I did that? What if I sold it here? Don't people just like, oh, I need to hire somebody. I need to open another location. And they're down the road. They didn't ask all the different questions to identify all the opportunities. They didn't do a financial analysis to see what that really looks like. They didn't consider that now on Saturday and Sunday, they're at the farmer's market and they're not going to play ball with their kid like they used to, which I think that's an important aspect as well. Okay. So that's why the power of asking the questions and then building just a little model. This is a very simplified model, but it's not that complicated to build big models. And like I said, many of you that are actually listening today, I see the names. I've actually worked with some of you to build models. And once I do, it's like in a Rubik's Cube. You can take and twist it and mix it, and it becomes extremely clear what the correct financial decision is, okay? So what happens is we are using our gut to make decisions, and then we are giving ourselves a gut ache, a stomach ache, worrying and tossing and turning all evening or day, night about these decisions. Now, we're still doing crystal ball. We're looking into the future. We can't know everything that's going to happen. So there is a bit that I tap into my gut as well. But I can tell you, and here's another quote for today, the gut with more data is the more reliable gut. I never worded it that way, but I always say when your gut has data, it knows a lot more. And so what happens is the mystery of the decisions are taken away. And once again, I'm going to come back full circle. You have an awareness, you have an understanding. And as a CFO in my private world, you know, as a CFO for bigger companies and managing all this, we didn't go around with mysteries. We knew. Sometimes it gave us a stomach ache because we knew. I'm not saying you didn't get a stomach ache, but it's better to know and understand, because once again, you can make choices. And that's why I tell people you really have to have a strong understanding of your numbers, because where your choice gets eliminated is when you run out of cash, right? And when you're out of cash and you can't get a bank loan, your choices eventually come down to bankruptcy, and that's it. And that's where you don't have choices. So you want to have an awareness, because usually when I run into companies in trouble and we have enough time, we have an understanding, we have so many choices. We can land the plane without a propeller, without gas. We can still land the damn plane. I had a conversation with somebody yesterday. It was several into it. She may be on the call today. And it was kind of an eye opener to say, hey, this is the situation. And it was that awareness dialogue. But like I said to her, I'm not convinced there's not a company in here. There could be a company in here. We just got to do some cleanup. And I'll end with this. And this is what I said to her yesterday. And I don't know if this is really true or not. This I read or heard a long time ago, or I made it up. I don't know. So bear with me on this like made up thing. But allegedly, when Michelangelo was asked how he created the statue of David. Now, I was not there, so I can't say this is actually how this conversation went down, okay? But allegedly, Lauren, when he was asked, he said, I merely chipped away all that was not. I find that the answer to our own self, as well as our companies, is to chip away all that is not. And I'm going to paraphrase and go on a limb. When I talk about companies, chip away all that is not profitable. The bulk of companies that I bring to profitability, I do so by telling them to do less, not more. everybody's out there, you need to sell more, you need to do this. I'm like, no, you need to quit selling things that aren't profitable, because you're just going to be more tired or more broke. That's one of my favorite. I'm always like, do you want to be more tired and more broke? Or I say, you would have been better off taking off and going to the beach that day than working in your company. You would have actually lost less money, So a lot of times it's just learning what you're doing and having awareness. Okay, quick little thing. Oh my God, I didn't even catch all the question. Okay. So let me run through to answer them best I can. Follow-up question on calling the money, your company a loan. What is the minimal amount that you must do that? There is no number, but it's kind of like what's insignificant. If only maybe you're doing, 500, 1,000 and it's a short term. Yeah, no problem, right? But if you're, taking out 10,000 and it's going to be out over a period of time, I would start counting it. But there is no actual number, or at least one that I'm aware of. But in accounting, we have a lot of things, and I always call it insignificant data when it's small as chunk change. And so it really depends on the amount and the time period. If you're just borrowing it for a month, it's not, these are coming out on taxes, right? But if it's going to be long term, especially over a year, yeah. Mary, I love this template. Did you base this cost of cookie on the overhead? Please, Mary, take session number 2. Lauren's got it in there. I go through an entire series on this template. I don't do as much as we did today with it, like I did, but I go through how I figure out cost. And this is a clue. I tell you how, if you're the one baking the cookies, you got to bake your labor cost into it. I talk a lot about that. So please take that. How do I factor in discounts? See, Anonymous, this is another fascinating question. And this is so important because I get this all the time, and I got it during COVID. Okay, we did this. We made all these sales because we discounted. Discounts are going to affect, let me go back to my little thing. I got to move the windows out for the question. If I discount something, say that I turn around, okay, I'm going to do something really quick. I know I'm running almost over, but I'm going to do some quick. And I don't know if these numbers are going to show it completely, but let's say this. So I am going to say, I'm going to take my small and I'm going to sell it at 4, but I'm going to have this thing where I'm going to sell 300. So let me first go back to 6. Okay, our net income is 210. So put in net income 210 for me, Lauren. That's the one we want to watch. Okay. I'm going to do a discount. I'm going to sell this at 4. So how many more do I have to sell to get to 210? 100? Yeah, about 100 more. So a discount is just looking at what is the new selling price and how many you have to sell. And I'm telling you, Anonymous, this is a rude awakening for many people because they watch the number go up. But see, guys, I want to know one more thing before I throw it back to you. I did not focus on the sales number, did I? You never heard me talk about the sales number. I had Lauren each time put the net income number in. People get caught up on the sales number. When somebody calls me for a consultation, they go, well, our company is X amount of dollars. I'm like, what's the net income? Because the net income at the day is all that matters. So you could see when I discounted it, I had to sell 100 more just to make the same money. So a discount is just mean you have to sell more. And so you have to really look at it and see why are you discounting it is a good reason to discount. When big companies discount something, believe me, they got much healthier profit margins to discount from. Please put that in the chat, Lauren. It's so important. People try to discount in their small business the way big companies do, but big companies have outrageous profit margins. They got a lot of what I call wiggle room. You got this much wiggle room. You could be right on the edge of a loss. You discount, you're into loss territory. Corporations can discount, but they got a lot of wiggle room. And believe me, they know what they're doing in advance of the discount. They didn't just do it out of a fear to make more sales, which we can talk about how people run their company out of fear sometime. And that is a definite recipe for disaster. Lauren, how did I do with no guest?
The guest was your audience. You didn't need it. Anyone sitting next to you.
Can we give an applause for our audience? Yay! I love you guys. You got me out of my hot seat of no guest, right? You know this thing with me, Lauren. Just ask me a question and I can talk. I got to end on this last thing. When I was a little kid, I always was a big talker, and my mom and dad, my dad especially, would say, do you ever shut up? I bet you can't shut up for 2 minutes. Can you just sit down and shut up for 2 minutes? And I remember that. And I would go, no, like that. And I think about it now. I'm like, well, I make money on my ability to not shut up. So it turned out to be a good thing. So you parents, if you got a kid that doesn't shut up, maybe don't yell at them as much. Think, well, they might be a great consultant down the road. Okay, thank you guys so much for giving me the leadway and helping me to kind of just get through our no guesting. And we used to do the Ask Lori, and so that's what I thought. And I didn't know other than I've been wanting to come back and do that myth buster of why growth is not always the best answer. And I wanted to show this. I had it in my back of my head. So the minute our guest didn't show up, I was like, I am going to try to at least show them that, because that would be very, very important. So next week, I think, after what did I say to you at the beginning, Lauren? We've been doing this for a year and a half. And I always told Lauren, someday our guest is not going to show up. It's just going to happen. This is a live show, right? Someday that's going to happen. And in the back of my mind, I always thought, well, we'll deal with it when it does. So now it's happened, and it didn't turn out to be that bad, did it?
Not at all.
And it's only because of our great audience. You gave me great questions and I just ran with it. So I do hope that helped you. And I want to thank you again. And I want to say thank you for joining another series of Small Biz Talk with your host and guest, Lori Williams, and guest audience. How's that, Lauren? And thank you to Lauren for always being there for us as well. I tell Lauren, if she wasn't there, I just couldn't do it. She is always right there with me. So, and it was funny. It was funny. Okay, guys. I will see you next year. Remember, if you want to get in touch with me, you want me to help you make a model, you want to go over this, Lauren will sends all things you send to her to me, and then I'll book a
Yes.
schedule with you, and we'll have a one-on-one and do a Zoom call, and I can build a model for you. And the other thing is, please do check out session 2 and session 3 of the financial literacy, because it'll give you the fundamental of the session 1 you don't have to take, but session 2 and session 3, if you take those together, I go into detail with this. And then in session 3, I teach you really cool CFO tricks on how to use percentages. And when I work with somebody, if they've taken these sessions, they already got an underlying foundation, not a necessity, but it does help. And all these are free from the SBDC, your tax dollars at work. So Lauren, I'm gonna let this to you to close it up and everything, and take it from there. But at the beginning, Lauren, you and I said, we got this. And you know what? We got this.
We got it.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Lori. Thank you. All right, everyone, go ahead and direct your attention to the chat. I think Lori slipped and said she'd see you next year. She's going to see you next week. Go ahead and check the chat for the financial literacy links. I also have my email in there if you'd like to set a session with Lori to create your customized model, because we do not deal in templates. Let's see what else. I guess there's nothing else. Thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to check back in with us or join us again next week, Wednesday at 10 a.m. for another episode of Small Biz Talk. Oh, tomorrow I'm going to put my email in the chat one more time. Yes, Wilmer, it's L Simpson at lbcc.edu. Okay, perfect. Looks like everyone's got that. I put it in the chat one more time. I will see you guys next week. Have a great remainder of the week and a fun weekend. Take care. Bye.